A car ran into a house in North Columbia this evening. Good evening, I'm rotolyddon.
And I'm Christine Roto. The car belongs to a man who lives in a house across the street. The man was backing out of the house at the time. Witnesses say they saw him walking after the accident, but an ambulance later took him to a nearby hospital.
And I seen him, he was standing in the garage. And next thing I know, he's up in this lady's house.
Neighbors say the woman who lives in the house with her great-granddaughter was at church at the time of the accident.
Police are searching for two men who robbed a break time in South Boonville earlier this morning. Take a look at the surveillance footage from the break time station. Two men walked into the store and fired at least one shot before escaping with an unknown amount of cash. No one was injured, and police say they do not know who the suspects are yet and urge anyone with information to call the Boonville Police Department.
Two people escaped a fire that started in a Boonville home around 9:30 this morning. Crews are now investigating the cause of the fire. Boone County firefighters responded to a fire at the house on Brushwood Lake Road around 9:30. The fire started in the garage and spread to the attic before crews put it out. The fire cost roughly $50,000 worth of damage.
Police are searching for two men who robbed a break time in South Boonville earlier this morning. And once again, take a look at the footage from the break time station. Two men walked into the store and fired at least one shot, like we mentioned earlier, escaping with an unknown amount of cash. Now, no one was injured, and police say they do not know who the suspects are yet and urge anyone with information to call with police at this time.
Columbia's job growth is flourishing, according to Forbes' recently released 2014 Best Small Cities for Jobs list. Forbes listed Columbia as third out of 11 small cities ranked for jobs. Forbes ranked the cities based on 3 different categories. In 2013, Columbia had nearly 102,000 jobs, 4% job growth from the previous year, and 9.7% job growth since 2008. The areas qualify for small cities depending on a population size of fewer than 150,000. Columbia ranked behind Bismarck, North Dakota, and Elkhart, Goshen, Indiana.
1 year after a tornado devastated Moore, Oklahoma, residents continue to rebuild their city. They say it takes emotional resilience to live in a city that's constantly under tornado watch. NBC's Rick Mitchell has the story.
May 20th.
Tuesday will mark the 1-year anniversary.
The weather's been unseasonably cold this weekend, so let's send it over to Tim for hopefully a bit of good news. Tim?
Biscuit with sausage gravy, only at Hardee's.
The Missouri legislature ended its annual session Friday. Overall, it was a mixed bag for Governor Jay Nixon as state Republicans overrode Governor Nixon's veto on a tax cut plan that could have cost more than $600 million. Republicans also chose not to go along with the governor on his plan to expand health care coverage for low-income Missourians. State lawmakers agreed to an increase in basic and for public schools, but the increase was not as high as Nixon wanted.
In tonight's world news, the second round of peace talks began in eastern Ukraine today with a plea for separatists to turn over their weapons. The Ukrainian prime minister says the government won't negotiate with gunmen. A negotiator asked separatists who have barricaded themselves in government buildings to give the peace talks a chance. For more than a month, armed men have occupied government, police, and security service buildings in eastern Ukraine. And just last week, they held a referendum seeking to cut ties with Ukraine. The Eastern Rebellion by pro-Russian separatists has shaken Ukraine and pushed Western powers into a Cold War-style confrontation with Russian President Vladimir Putin, whom Kiev accuses of trying to destabilize Ukraine. Protesters marched on Nigeria's capital today, continuing their calls for the safe return of more than 200 schoolgirls who were kidnapped by militant extremists last month. The Bring Back Our Girls group has been meeting every day for more than 2 weeks to put pressure on the government to rescue the girls. Today's protest took place as Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan met with leaders from Africa and Europe. They're attending a summit to work out a joint effort to combat the extremist group Boko Haram. The Bring Back Our Girls campaign is hoping to meet with the Nigerian president next Thursday. And in Vietnam, authorities cracked down on what they're calling illegal protests. What started as a peaceful protest turned violent when groups began torching foreign-owned factories. Protests in Vietnam are technically illegal, but last weekend the government allowed anti-China demonstrations to go on. Analysts say that move was a way for the authoritarian state to show its anger with Beijing for putting an oil rig in waters that both countries claim. Protesters vandalized dozens of factories, leading hundreds of Chinese and Taiwanese people to flee Vietnam.
The rivalry is finally renewed. Coming up later in sports, find out who won the border war.
This is a head-to-head challenge.
Going to continue to see those fluctuations in the weather.
Well, at least it's not dropping like 40 or 30 degrees. That's always a good sign, right?
Thank God.
Right.
70
I hope
tomorrow.
that we're kind of all done with that.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Tim.
The border war continued today.
Coming up next in sports, find out if the Tigers could roast the Jayhawks. That's coming up in just a little bit.
And here are your lottery numbers. Good luck. This is KOMUA News at 10. Coverage you can count on.
Silverado 1500.
Your Sunday outlook looks dry, but it looks sunny as well. We're going to warm back up into the 70s. High pressure, a little bit of a southeasterly wind is going to help us warm up to a high of 70 tomorrow. You can download our app for your phone or tablet. Here's a look at the next couple of hours or so, your first alert forecast. Falling into the lower 40s. Sunday, again, 70 degrees. Looks like our temperature, 79 on Monday. A chance for storms in the morning. Otherwise, pretty nice week.
Can't complain with that. I mean, it was perfect. I feel like the weather's always going, you know, raining or snowing or doing something crazy, but for graduation weekend, it turned out to be perfect.
Great for all those families who came in town.
Really
That's
was.
exactly,
And
yeah.
it wasn't too hot. I was nervous about this.
Traffic wasn't horrible, but I mean, at least the weather was good, so you can go to Stephen Lake Park, show the family around, have a good time,
I
celebrate
wanna golf.
graduation.
I
That'd be nice.
finally bought a set of clubs.
They golf today.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for joining us, and have a great night.